Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ from college football. Michigan State has fired head football coach Mel Tucker following sexual harassment allegations that ultimately led to his suspension earlier this month. In a statement, the university's athletic director said Tucker's, quote, inappropriate and unprofessional conduct, end quote, led to the decision, while adding the school would distance itself from Tucker based on his actions. Tucker is accused of engaging in explicit acts with sexual assault survivor and activist Brenda Tracy, who filed a complaint last December. The firing comes 2 years into a 10-year, $95 million extension that Tucker was given back in 2021. In terms of the statement issued by the university, here it is, or part of it anyways. The university terminated Tucker's contract for his admitted and undisputed behaviors, which have brought public disrespect, contempt, and ridicule upon the university and constitute a material breach of his agreement with moral turpitude. Let's bring in senior college football writer Dennis Dodd for more on this. Dennis, I mean, we knew that this was coming, so when I look at this today, I'll ask you the first question. What has indeed changed here?
Well, Jeremy, you see it spelled out. Moral turpitude. That clause or some form of it is in every contract out there for coaches. And the administration at Michigan State has deemed by his admitted actions, and I don't think we need to go through that again, to remind people what he did, that it brought disrepute on the university. That is their opinion. Now, where we go from here is really the juicy stuff. He is owed somewhere between $75 and $79 million on a fully guaranteed contract. So I'm sure this is going to go to the mattresses with Michigan State, with his agent Neil Cornrich, with his lawyers to see how much of that he can claw back. And in the end, I've seen too many of these. It'll be some sort of settlement for something less than that. Because both sides will figure, okay, how much do we have to spend in court to get this done? And at what point does it become worth it not to spend any more money? That's basically what we're going to talk about. I'll just spare everybody the details. And he will settle for some sort of money after that, because he's probably got a case that, you know, look, this was consenting adults, blah, blah, blah. Or at least that's what he's contended. That's what he'll bring to court. But Mel Tucker is out, and he will get a big payday, just not $79 million.
All right. So where does the football program go from here?
The football program is a good one. Typically mid-level in the Big Ten. This does not affect, or did not involve football at all in terms of the scandal. They're not doing well this season. But I think it's going to be, for the right coach, it's going to be really attractive. And you've got guys out there. I know we're going to talk about the candidates, but look, this is what, in his first 2 years, Mel Tucker beat Michigan twice. He had them winning 11 games. Mark D'Antonio, in his, the winningest coach in history, who's now kind of an assistant coach with Harlan Barnett, he brought them their glory years in the time he was there, and he stepped down a couple of years ago. He might still be interested in the job, but what Michigan State can be in football is really the point. Mark D'Antonio won a Big Ten title. He brought the team to the Rose Bowl. They were in the mix when he had it going in about 2012 to 2018. They were really, really good. And I'd look for a guy like Pat Narduzzi, who's at Pittsburgh, to be interested, but we can talk about that. But it's a good program, and I think it's ready to take off. This will be behind them in football terms soon, and they'll be ready to play again.
In terms of the candidates, I mean, Dennis, you've come up with the list that we have over on CBSSports.com. Great article that kind of walks you through all the names. But taking a look at some of those names, I mean, Jonathan Smith with Oregon State, I mean, they're moving to the Mountain West. So, I mean, maybe he's looking for an out. You have Mike Elko, the job that he's done at Duke in 2 years, turning that program around. I mean, when you look at this list of names, walk us through a couple of the favorites here that you think would be best suited for this position.
Yeah, I had Jonathan Smith at the top of that list initially when I posted this last week, because as you mentioned, Oregon State is going through turmoil, flux. It's not going to be the athletic department it was, probably going to end up in the Mountain West. And according to published reports, not published reports, the president of Oregon State said yesterday in a statement that the athletic budget is probably going to take a 44% hit. I think that's being conservative. So there's a couple of things. You're not going to have enough money to hire the next Jonathan Smith if you lose him. And what do you do about extending Jonathan Smith when you don't have enough money? That president has said they're going to try all avenues, state subsidies, donations, everything to stay at where they are, which is, in the last year of that Pac-12 contract, about $36 million per school. Now, that's going to end, obviously, pretty quick next June 30th when that contract ends with ESPN and Fox. But when they go into the Mountain West, I think we all believe they're going to end up in the Mountain West. That's about $4 to $6 million per year. So let's see, $4 to $6 million per year versus $36 million per year. That's a lot more than 44%. So I think he's got to look out for himself. He's got to look out for his family. He's a very, very good coach. No connections to Michigan State. The other guy is Mike Elko at Duke. They play Notre Dame this week. They're one of the few undefeated teams, 27 of them in the country. He's done a great job as a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame and Texas A&M. I think he'd have his choice of jobs if the right one comes along. Or he could wait at Duke. Riley Leonard is coming out. He's going to be in the NFL, not now being talked about as an NFL quarterback. So I think Mike Elko's got to take a serious look at this unless he thinks he can get something better this year or in subsequent years. The other guy that I did not have on the list that has to be considered is Pat Narduzzi, who was a former defensive coordinator under Mark D'Antonio, 2007 to 2014, brought the physicality and glory that most of Michigan State had during those years. He's only 57 years old, 63-43 at Pittsburgh, has won an ACC title now, off to a 1-3 start this year. Now at Pittsburgh Craters, can that be sold to those in charge that they need to hire Pat Narduzzi? But I got to think he's interested. But it'd be very, very interesting. I think there's some really good names on this list, and one of them is going to be interested.
As you mentioned, we were talking about this beforehand, Narduzzi might be a guy you can get at a hometown discount based on how things are going at Pitt. But Dennis, when you look at this job, how much of the attraction for this job is not just necessarily about where Michigan State is as a football program, but about where the Big Ten is as a conference, and the fact that they're a conference that is expanding? There is going to be, as you mentioned, a lot more money available.
Well, beginning next year, that payout is going to average $60 million per school with the new Big Ten contract with Fox and NBC and others in that deal, obviously with CBS as well. $60 million. So again, you're going to have the best of everything. There's recruits all over the place. They're near Detroit. I don't have to tell you what Michigan and other schools have going into Detroit to get players, basketball and football. So it's sitting there right for them. You're going to have really good facilities. You're going to have, recruiting all around you, and you're going to have a lot more money in the system. So that makes it incredibly, incredibly attractive to whoever wants that job.
So when you look at the Big Ten as a whole, I mean, where does it sit right now when you look at Michigan State, kind of where their program is at, and the conference as a whole in terms of its attraction to outside forces?
Well, as we stated, Michigan State's kind of a mid-level program in the Big Ten, but the point is they're in the Big Ten. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to rule the roost. I mean, I think we know that. You already see people and factions developing over how many automatic qualifiers are going to be in the playoff. Greg Sankey of the SEC has already said he doesn't favor 6+6 because that sixth team frequently isn't even ranked, and he's talking about the group of 5. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to be able to dictate what goes on in college athletics, and I call it the big push. At some point or another, some faction or another, some issue or another, one or both of these conferences are going to make a move that separates themselves from the rest of college football. They already have financially, and Michigan State is on that bus. So they're going to be part of the power, what is it now, 32, 34, beginning in 2024. And Jeremy, frankly, there's not many schools past that you need to have a legitimate playoff. So you can see where this is going. If there is going to be separation. Do you need a Florida State? Do you need a Clemson? I guess so. But right now, they could stage their own playoff.
Our senior college football writer, Dennis Dodd, joining us to discuss the breaking news. Michigan State has fired head coach Mel Tucker for cause based on a statement issued from the university. Thanks very much, Dennis. Always good to have you along. And certainly they'll be talking about this on the Cover 3 podcast. You may even get breaking news in your feed in terms of the Cover 3 podcast going up with an emergency pod. For all the latest from college football, you want to be listening to Chip Patterson and the gang. You can download and follow wherever you get your podcasts or scan that QR code to listen right now.